Hi, this is Physics Unit 2, Jan 21. The unit of power is the watt. Which of the following is included in the SI base unit for power? Okay, so the base unit for power is kg meters square per second to the power cube. Therefore, we have kg. So kg, meter or second could be the answer, but we have kg here, so kg is the answer. So this is a very simple question. How do you find the combined resistance of this system? When the resistances are in parallel, then what we do is the total resistance is equal to 1 by y plus 1 by z. So this will give you the total resistance of the parallel circuit. And then if you make t the subject and add it with x, then you get the total resistance of the entire circuit. In series, we add the resistances, and in parallel, we use this formula. Ultrasound can be used to investigate organs inside the human body, which is correct. So all the ultrasound is reflected at a boundary between different tissues. So that is not incorrect. Not all is reflected, some is reflected. They travel faster in air than inside the body. That's wrong. Denser the medium, more the speed. Greater wavelength gives image with a high resolution. That's wrong. Only option D is correct. Electromagnetic radiation can be described in terms of a photon model. Which of the following demonstrates the photon model, the photoelectric effect? Because that is where we saw that when and only when you put certain wavelength of photon, electrons can be emitted. Okay. So take a moment to read the question. The equation involved with the question is this: voltage is equal to minus Ri plus E. So this R is the internal resistance of our power source, and this E is the EMF of our power source. So if we plot the V in the y-axis, I in the x-axis, then our y-intercept will give us our EMF and our gradient will give us minus R. So D is the answer. So the equation V equal to IR can be applied to this circuit. If we do that, our V, the voltage supply, is epsilon, our I is I, and our total resistance is not only R, but along with R we have the internal resistance, small r. So you have to take this into account. The amplitude is 20 centimeter. That's wrong, because the amplitude is 10 centimeter. The period of the wave is 0.2, but the period of the wave, as we can see, is 0.4 seconds. The wavelength is 0.4 meters. Well, we don't know anything about the wavelength, so that is out of the question. So only B is the correct answer. The frequency is this much. How do you know? You can see the total time period is 0.4. Frequency is equal to 1 by t, which is 1 by 0.4. That gives us 2.5. Critical angle is 42 degree, which is correct. Well, if you incident 40 degree, all of the light is refracted. Well, all the light is not refracted. Some light is refracted, and some light is reflected even before hitting the critical angle. So 40 degree, all the light is not reflected because we haven't reached the critical angle yet. 45 degree, all the light is refracted. No, that is wrong. All the light is rather reflected. So D is the correct answer. The de Broglie wavelength can be used to calculate the momentum of a photon. How do we know? Because P signifies the momentum. So you have this much electrons and this much time. What is the current? Current is equal to the total charge divided by time. So the charge, how much charge is passing through this circuit? These many electrons are passing, right? So the charge of one electron is 1.6 times 10 to the power minus 19. So if there are these many electrons, then we have to multiply the electronic charge with this number to get the total charge that is passing. That gives us Q, and divide that value with the value of time, that is 30, and that gives us the answer A. The total number of electrons, the charge of per electron, multiply them, you get the Q. Divide that by the time, you get the current in the circuit. Okay. We have a copper wire radius this much, we have a current this much, the number of charge carrier per meter cube for copper is this much. So we have to calculate the drift velocity. The equation is I is equal to NA QV. I means current, N means the number of electrons per unit volume, which is given here, and A is the cross-sectional area of the wire, Q is the charge carrier, the charge per charge carrier, which is the electronic charge, and V is the drift velocity. So I is given in the question 5.1. n is given in the question. A, we have to calculate, we know the radius, and from there we can calculate the cross-sectional area of the wire, pi r square. We have done that by converting this to meters. And q is the electronic charge, we have put it here, and v is the net velocity, which we have to calculate. So this is a scenario of constructive destructive interference. At B we can see destructive interference, and A we can see constructive interference. So we have to explain each type of superposition taking place at A and B. So here I've used short forms to save time, but listen to the answer very carefully and write your answer accordingly. In position A we have constructive superposition, and when does it happen? The constructive superposition happens when the path difference is n lambda, where n is an integer. Similarly, at B we have destructive superposition, which happens when the path difference is 2n plus 1 lambda, where lambda is the wavelength and n is any integer. Okay. So we have an LDR, we have a power source, resistor, voltmeter. The EMF of the cell is 1.5. So the cell EMF is 1.5. Okay, the voltmeter reading was 1.19. So the voltage across this is 1.19. So we can easily calculate the voltage across the LDR, that is 0.31 is the voltage across the LDR. Calculate the resistance of the LDR when the lights were off. So basically this scenario, we know V is equal to I R, so I is V by R. So we have to first calculate the current in the circuit. Okay, and the only component for which we know both the voltage and the resistance is this resistor. So using the V and the R, we calculate the value of the current at first. So the same amount of current will be passing through the LDR because this is in series. So for the LDR now we know the current, which is same for the entire circuit. We know the voltage, which is 0.31, and the resistance we have to calculate, that is the unknown, and hence we can calculate. Okay, so thing is, this experiment is valid when the lights were off. When the light is on, we cannot do this experiment because the resolution of the voltmeter is 0.01. And why can't we do the experiment? Let us find out. When the lights are on, the voltage across the resistor itself will be given by the voltage of the resistor divided by the total voltage of the circuit into 1.5. The voltage of the resistor, the resistance of the resistor is fixed, that is 5000. The total resistance is the resistor resistance plus the LDR, which the teacher has set to be 9. So this is the total resistance of the circuit. Multiply by the voltage and you get how much voltage drop we are getting only across the resistor. So this much voltage drop we are getting across the resistor, 1.497 volt only across the resistor. So the remaining 0.003 volt will drop across the LDR because we have a total of 1.5. The voltmeter resolution itself is 0.01. So it can measure 0.01, 0.02, 0.03 and so on. So it can never really measure this small of a voltage. That is why we cannot do the experiment in this condition. That is when the lights are on. Okay, take a moment to read the question. Okay, so what happens is, when we have an electron with a kinetic energy of this much, it interacts with the atom, and an electron in the atom moves from this level to this level. Okay, so but when we give a photon with same amount of energy, nothing happens. The electron stays at minus 13.6. So the only difference is, first we put in electron, then the experiment was working, the electron was shifting, but when we give a photon of the same amount of energy, the electron is no longer shifting. Why does that happen? So here once again I have used short forms to save time, but listen to the answer carefully, then you can construct your own answer. The gap between minus 13.6 and 1.5 is 12.1 electron volt. When we introduce the electron of 12.3 electron volt, this 12.1 electron volt is used to transfer this electron to this level. So 12.1 is used to transfer the electron from here to here. What happens to the remaining 0.2? The remaining 0.2 becomes the kinetic energy of that incoming electron. The electron that we introduced, that electron gains that 0.2 electron volt as its kinetic energy. Good. However, when we give a photon of this much energy, we only need an energy of 12.1 to transfer the electron. But when we give a photon of 12.3, this photon energy does not match the energy that we need. Therefore, the electron does not jump. Only when the energy gap exactly matches the photon energy, then the electron will jump. Now you can ask that if previously the electron had gained the additional 0.2, why can't it happen in the case of the photon? No, it cannot happen in the case of the photon. The photon cannot gain this additional 0.2 electron volt energy. Only the electron could gain that 0.2 electron volt additional energy. The photon cannot attain that extra energy by itself. Therefore, when you give electron, you can give whatever amount of energy that you like. The remaining energy will be taken by the electron as the kinetic energy. It's not restricted. But for photon, you have to give, if you introduce a photon to transfer an electron from lower to higher level, you have to give exactly the energy gap amount, that amount of energy of photon you have to provide. So this cup is initially empty, we have a coin here, but when we fill it up with water, we can see the coin from the same angle. So what is meant by refraction? Refraction is the change in direction of waves due to a change in velocity. Here we have to calculate the refractive index of this material, basically the refractive index of water. So by I mean, first of all, we have to calculate the angle I. How does that happen? We know that this much is 1.8, we know that this much is 3, from here 3. Tan I is equal to 1.8 by 3. From there we get the value of I, which is equal to 43 degrees. Similarly, we can get the value of R, this much is 4 and this much is 3.7. Tan R is equal to 3.7 divided by 4. We get the value of R to be 31. Then we apply this equation and we get the value of the refractive index of water to be 1.32. Write your answer here. So filament bulb, thermistor, and we have this graph here. Basically this is I versus V, so this gradient is the inverse of the resistance. So here the gradient is decreasing, which means the resistance here is actually increasing, and here the gradient is increasing, therefore the resistance is actually decreasing. So why does that happen? Why does the resistance increase for filament and decrease for thermistor? For the filament, let us discuss. As the temperature increases, the vibration of the lattice atoms increase. As the vibration increases, the collision of the lattice atoms with the electron flow increases. Therefore, the electrons face more resistance to flow, and as a result, the total resistance of the conductor increases. For the thermistor, as temperature increases, more electrons are released from the lattice atoms. Therefore, the amount of delocalized electrons increases by unit volume. I is equal to NAQV. I is current, N is the number of delocalized electrons per unit volume, A is the cross-sectional area, Q is the electronic charge, V is the Gibbs velocity. So, as the number of electrons per unit volume increases according to step 1, as N increases, I also increases. Don't write the short forms, write the full sentences as I am speaking. So, as the temperature increases, the resistance of the thermistor therefore decreases. So we have a light of this much wavelength, we have a work function of this much, and we have the photoelectric effect taking place. Calculate the maximum speed. So this is a very simple question, a very standard question of photoelectric effect. So first we have to calculate the value of frequency, because we have to use the energy equation, E is equal to hf. So we know the velocity of electromagnetic wave, 3 times 10 to the power 8. We know the wavelength that is given in the question. From there we can use this equation to get the frequency of our wave, that is, this is the frequency. Then we use the equation E is equal to hf. H is the Planck constant and F is what we calculated. We got the energy of each photon. The work function has been given in electron volt, but since the energy is in joule, we have to take the work function in joule as well. So to get this answer, to multiply, to convert the joule into electron volt, multiply by 1.6 times 10 to the power minus 19. Then you get it into, my bad. The work function is given in electron volt. To get joule from electron volt, multiply the joule, multiply the electron volt amount with 1.6 times 10 to the power minus 19. Then you can convert this electron volt value into joule value. Okay, so now E is equal to work function plus half v square, where this is the kinetic energy of the electron. The E is the energy of the photon that we are giving, that we calculated here, with the work function, and half mv square. M is the mass of the electron, which is constant, and we have to calculate the velocity of the electron, the maximum speed, which is this much. Okay, so our student is saying that if we increase the wavelength and intensity, then the maximum speed of the electron will increase. So we have to suggest whether this is correct or incorrect. Well, first of all, if the intensity increases, we have two parameters, intensity and wavelength. If the intensity increases, we know that the number of photons per unit area increases. So it really has no effect on the kinetic energy and no effect on the velocity of each photon. So the intensity is ruled out. Well, he says that if the wavelength increases, then also the maximum speed increases. But that doesn't happen because if the wavelength increases, here I've made a mistake, it will be an upward arrow. If the wavelength increases, the kinetic energy of the photons will decrease, therefore the velocity will also decrease. Therefore the student is wrong. How can we demonstrate that a light is plane polarized? Use a polarizing filter. We pass the light through a single polarizing filter. And we rotate the filter until there is no light. So here we have a very small gap over here, very small slit. From here the light diffract, and this is the central maximum, and this is the first order maximum. Here is the dark and here is the first maximum. Okay, so the diffraction grating equation is this. N means which order maximum we are talking about. If we are talking about the first order maximum, N has a value of 1. Lambda is the wavelength, D is the distance between the grating and the screen, and theta is this much. This angle is theta. State the quantity represented by the D. Oh my bad, the D is not the distance from the grating to the screen. D is the distance between the slit. So the slit separation is D. It is not the distance between the grating and the screen. My mistake. Okay. So we know this distance, the distance between the central maximum and the first order maximum. We know the distance from the diffraction grating to the screen. Both have been given. We know the wavelength of the light, and from there we have to calculate the number of lines per millimeter on the diffraction grating. So how can we do that? First of all, let us find this angle. Tan theta is equal to 1.16 by 2.74. That gives us this theta that we saw on the previous page to be 30.4. Now we apply this equation. Since this is the first order, n is 1, lambda has been given in the question on the first page, d we have to calculate, sin theta, theta we know, from there d is equal to this much. So d is the slit separation. Therefore, the distance between each line is this. So how many lines do we have per unit distance? Just the inverse of this value of d, which is 9.52 times 10 to the power 5. This much lines we have per meter of our grating. So if we have this many lines per meter, in 1 meter we have these many lines. So in 1 millimeter, how many do we have? Divide this value by 1000. That is the answer. How the teacher using the same laser pointer could improve the value for the number of lines per millimeter. Okay, so instead of measuring the distance, so here we measure the distance, right? Here we measure the distance from the central maximum to the first order maximum, 1.61. So if we did the same thing for this side as well, for this side, then we can average the two values and get a more accurate result. That is your point number 1. And the distance to the grating can be increased. Well, this 2.74 distance, that can be increased, and we all know that when the distance increases, the measurement increases, the percentage uncertainty decreases. Okay, take a moment to read the question. This is the circuit that we will use for our experiment. Power source, variable resistor, ammeter, voltmeter, and then acron wire that we're talking about. We know that when you want to measure the voltage across a particular component, you place the voltmeter across or parallel to that component. So using this setup, a student has done this graph, the voltage versus the length. Basically this is a V by L or voltage by length graph. So you have to calculate the resistivity. Okay, so first of all, let us calculate the gradient. Why we'll calculate the gradient? It will be clear after you see this equation. So maybe you could do this step later. First of all, for the resistivity, you get this equation. Resistance is equal to rho L by A, where rho is the resistivity. Okay. Now, resistance can also be written as V by I. So if you substitute R by V by I and keep rho L by A as it is, then you can see that if you make V by L the subject by putting L here, V by L the subject, that will give you rho I by A. You know the value of I, you know the value of A. So you can, if you can know the value of V by L, then you can find out the value of the resistivity. If you couldn't catch, watch this portion once again. So how can you get this value of V by L? V by L is basically the gradient of the voltage versus length graph. That is V by L. So we have this graph here, V by L. So just calculate this gradient and take as big a triangle as possible, preferably more than half of your diagram. Calculate the gradient, and that is your value of V by L. For me the gradient was 4.15. I have input this value here, 4.15 V by L, and the cross sectional area is given here, and the value of current was given in the previous part of the question, constant value 0.2. So you substitute all these values, you get the value for resistivity. Calculate the power dissipated from the nacroma to the surrounding when the length is this much. So when the length is 0.75, from our graph above we can find that the voltage is 3.1. So we know that current is constant, 0.2. It was said in the previous part that current should always be constant, 0.2. We know the voltage, P is equal to IV. We can calculate the power. So take a moment to read the question. We want to find out whether standing 25 cm from this smart meter is dangerous or not. The power from the smart meter is this much. Intensity is given by power by area. That is the spherical area, definitely, around your source. The power is 1 watt. Area is 4 pi r square. If you are standing at a distance of 25 cm, you convert the centimeter into meter, you can calculate the area around that source. Dividing this area from the power, you get the intensity, which is 1.27. But this is below our dangerous level of 4.5, so this is not dangerous. Okay, so we have to calculate the energy of the photon, which is given by hf. H is the constant and f is the frequency that is given. You just input the value. The only additional thing that you have to do by yourself is convert this joule into electron volt. How do you do that? In order to convert joule to electron volt, divide a joule value by 1.6 times 10 to the power minus 19. Take a moment to read the question. This is the amount of energy that is used in one day. The student says that if we heat one kettle of water just once, then we use only less than 1% of the total daily consumption. So let us see how much energy is used to boil a kettle of water. So the kettle has a power rating of 1200. It takes 125 seconds. Multiply power by time, you get how much energy is taken to boil the kettle of water. So this is the energy for the kettle. So what is this is in joule, so you have to convert this into joule as well. So 6.85 kilowatt hour means this much kilowatt into 1 hour. So convert the kilowatt into watt by multiplying by 1000 to convert the kilo. For 1 hour, multiply this hour into seconds. Multiply all the values. This is the amount of energy that we use in one day. So in order to calculate how much is this kettle, a fraction of the entire energy that we use in one day, divide this value by the total value, multiply by 100. That is 0.61 and that is less than 1%. So the student is correct. So instead of giving this tick mark, write that the student's suggestion is correct. A musical instrument. It is open at both ends, therefore we have open ends of the wave at both ends. If it was closed here, the wave would have been closed here. So we have to calculate the frequency. V is equal to f lambda. That is the only equation that we have. We know the speed of sound in air. We just have to know the value of wavelength. Well, if you see, this is only one of the waves, right? This is not the entire wave. You can have another of such wave like this. Then it will give the total wave. This is the total wave. So this is only half the wavelength. And this length is given by 23.6 centimeter. So if you multiply that by 2, then you get the total wavelength of your wave. And this, since this is in centimeter, convert this to meters. Then you get a frequency. Okay. So what happens is when the temperature increases, the speed of the sound also increases. So how can we keep the frequency constant? Well, If the temperature increases, the speed increases, right? So the speed increases. Therefore, in order to keep the frequency constant, we also have to increase the wavelength. To increase the wavelength, what we have to do? Well, you saw the wavelength is equal to 2 times the length of your flute. Therefore, if you want to increase the wavelength, you have to increase the length of your flute. Well, then your flute length has to be increased if you want to increase the wavelength. How can you do that? By sliding these stations apart. These stations can be slid, so you can slide the stations further apart to increase the length, therefore increase the wavelength, and therefore keep the frequency constant. Okay, so there was a change in frequency from 432 to 440, and we want to calculate what is the percentage increase in the tension in the string. So the formula for tension is V is equal to root over T by mu, where T is the tension, mu is the mass per unit length of the string. So another equation we have for so we don't have any frequency here, so but we need an equation in terms of frequency. So V is equal to F lambda. So since both these are equations of V, we can write this is equal to this. That is what I've written here. Then you have to make T the subject, since we want to know how much the tension is increased. So T is equal to mu lambda square F square. So lambda is constant for a string, for a guitar or a similar type of string instrument. The lambda remains constant. So the mu, mass per unit length, that also remains constant because you are not changing the string itself. So this entire thing is a constant, which is represented by K. So F square. So T is equal to F square. Therefore T2 by T1 is KF2 square by KF1 square. The K's cancel out. Therefore, if you substitute the value of F2 and F1, that is 440 and 432, you can get the ratio of T2 is to T1. That is the final tension divided by the initial tension is 1.037, which means T2 is equal to 1.037 T1. The percentage increase is T2, that is the final value minus the initial value divided by the initial value into 100. So T2 is equal to 1.037 T1. If you substitute this value over here, the T1 can be taken common and it can be cancelled out, and finally you can get this much percentage increase in your tension. That is all. Thank you for watching.